guys. Hello. सची तू ही स्टार्ट कर देना, ठीक है? We will start at 8:35 once the Vikrant sir also joins. So 8:35 को exact we will start and you just start with the welcome and speaker's intro, okay? Done. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Done. Samarth, do you need co-host rights के चलेगा तो मैं दे दूँ.
Hi Pesia.
Hi Vikrant sir, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. वहाँ पे ठंडी है क्या बॉम्बे में?
थोड़ी बहुत है.
Okay.
How about your place?
सर है.
बहुत ज़्यादा
है. मुझे ज़्यादा लगती है बिकॉज मेरे होम टाउन में इतनी नहीं होती गांधीनगर जितनी, so मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. So sir, we will start at 8:35 exact. And Sachi will start with the welcome note and your introduction.
Okay, Sachi, you have my introduction.
We have the profiles of all the speakers.
Will you give me access to share my screen?
I'll just give you the co-host rights, so it will be easier for you. Now you can.
Yeah. You are interning with PDPU?
He is the managing director of Forte Magna Advisors Private Limited, a company focused on corporate finance and advisory, venture capital training, and incubation and innovation management. Mr. Vikrant is also the founder of Indian Academy of Venture Capital, which is an initiative to plug in the gaps in understanding the capital raising process for startups and angel investors. He manages startups and innovation initiatives of the Bombay Stock Exchange. He has also headed Sardar Patel Technology Business Incubator, a tech incubation platform supported by the government Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is also an incubating coach at PDPU IIC. We welcome you, sir. I would like to hand over the platform to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the introduction. So, guys, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining for today's session. A very interesting session on raising a round of private equity. Uh, I have a humble request before I begin the session. Uh, Whoever can, please switch on your cameras. It becomes very difficult to stare at the screen and talk. If there are a few faces, it just makes me, it just gets me to know that how is the response, whether you guys are liking it, not, etc. So whoever can, I would urge you guys to switch on your cameras throughout the session. Um, Today's topic is extremely critical from the SME perspective and the founder's perspective. That at the end of the day, how do you raise a round of private equity? You've seen a lot of founders, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs raising venture capital, raising private equity. What is going to ensure, or what will be important for you guys to raise a round of funding? We have to know that. How will you guys be able to raise a round of funding? There's abundant money available. It is just that you need to know, how do we go about doing that? And in today's 2 hours, I'm going to try and communicate that to you guys. So what we are going to focus on in this session is three things. What does an investor look for while investing in a particular enterprise? Second, which type of investors should I reach out to? Where do I start? Okay, sab gyan to le liya, but abhi shuru kahan se kare? Where do I, tomorrow morning when I wake up, what is the action point? And third is, how do I approach these investors, right? So these are the three things that we are going to focus on from a private equity perspective. The first part obviously is around, what does an investor look for in raising or in investing in ventures? Whatever I'm telling you, whatever I'm going to communicate to you is basically through my experience of raising around 200 crores for Indian early stage companies. Our recent transaction has been a company called Work India, where we raised 42 crores from a private equity fund. So whatever we've learned in this 200 crores of capital raising, that learning, I have packaged it and I'm going to deliver. There's nothing right or wrong in capital raising, and therefore, feel free to use your own way, use your own method. Not necessarily what I'm saying is going to be right, but so far in my 10 years of journey, what I'm going to say is or has worked. So what do investors really focus on when it comes to raising a round of private equity? And to answer this question, I'm going to request you guys to take a minute and let me know that if you were supposed to invest in a business, what is it that you would focus on? Venture capital, private equity is all about stepping into the shoes of the investors and thinking, right? And then building our own business accordingly. So the first step of today's session is to, step into the shoes of the investor. And for a moment, imagine that if you have, 50, 100 crores of capital to be deployed, you have to invest that money in early stage ventures, in SMEs. What kind of businesses would you choose and why? Anyone who wants to go and give a shot at answering this? And it can be anything, right? Your own thoughts. Everyone has some investment aspirations. Everyone wants to invest in an early stage business. So what kind of business would you invest in and why? I'm going to pause for 10 seconds to see if I have any responses. Just unmute your mic and feel free to discuss. Anyone? Very simple question, guys. What kind of businesses would you like to invest in?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
As an investor, I always feel that whatever is his forte, his expertise as an investor. Let's say I'm into engineering industry. So as an investor, I would like to invest more into engineering side because that's where I can understand the business very well.
Okay. So,
And I'll always see the safety of my money.
got it. So two things have come up: sector-specific investments and capital protection.
Yes, I have an answer.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I would preferably invest in SMEs that have not yet, fully achieved their export potential. मतलब जो अभी इंडियन मार्केट्स के अंदर ही अपने गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज सेल कर रहे हैं, particularly मेडिकल डिवाइसेस हो गए या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स, ऐसी कोई एसएमईज हैं. सो अगर मैं इन्वेस्टर हूं तो मैं चाह रहा हूं कि मेरी कैपिटल से उनको वॉट एवर यूएस एफडीए के क्लियरेंस हो, आरओएचएस हो, सीई हो, वो अचीव हो जाए एंड वहां के जो मार्केटिंग एस्पिरेशन से वो अचीव हो जाए एंड एक्सपोर्ट स्टार्ट हो जाए. बेसिकली अगर नहीं है तो स्टार्ट हो जाए और अगर छोटे मोटे है तो फिर वो बढ़े.
Very interesting. So I have put it, as a business model, whoever has not achieved yet their export potential, those kind of SMEs you would want to invest in. Okay, fair enough. Any more thoughts? Come on, guys. I mean, any more ideas? See, this is how we are going to build our theses of what investors really look for, right? I'm crowdsourcing ideas from you and giving it back to you, but when I give it back, I'm going to kind of give it back in a very structured way. So, any thoughts? Any more answers? Simple question: what kind of businesses would you like to invest in? We are talking here about raising money from investors, right? Flip that question first and say that if I am an investor, what would I like to invest in and why? Anyone?
As an investor, we also have to see that our money is mainly into a liquid form, not very much into a debt asset.
Okay. Anything else? What parameters would you look at? Any specific parameters that you would look at? Anything specifically about a business that you would study or you would want to understand before investing? Come on.
The business model.
Sorry, I'm not.
Sorry.
Yeah. So such. Who is?
Hiren, you can go ahead. Milan, you can speak after him.
Okay. As an investor, we also have to see the business model and the credibility in the markets. Let's say in few businesses, they have 60 to 90 days of credit, and there are few businesses which are going on a cash market, like payment terms for 5 to 10 days or max 15 days or something like this.
Understood. Okay. So business model, credit cycle. Yes. Someone else was also speaking.
Milan, you can go ahead.
So majorly they see the experience of the founders as well as the bonding of the same, as well as the future plan where they are planning to see their business in coming days, like whether they are planning to sold or they are growing the same.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So I put it on the chat. So, whatever points you're mentioning, I'm just putting on the chat window. Any further points? What kind of businesses would you like to invest in? Think about it. What kind of businesses? Any specific thing within a business that you would want to, understand before making an investment decision?
A business which is already
also investor is making for the like team.
Sir, come again. Be slightly loud.
Team also investor is looking for team. What is the team capability? Team also growth और स्किल डेवलपमेंट वो सब देखते हैं.
Understood. Great. Okay, any final thoughts, guys?
Investors also see if business is almost on the verge of running, like the setup and everything has been done, the market is already there, and they now need a fund to for the day in day out or more on the working capital side.
Got it. Great. So, guys, thank you so much. You have put in, a lot of points are there on the chat window. Now, I'm going to ask you one final question before we move into what investors look at, and I'm going to give you a matrix for you to work on. But one final question before this is, what is the topmost thing that investors would look at? The topmost thing. If you have to pick up one thing, right? Pick up one thing that you have to look at, about a business before investing. What would that one thing be? Think about that one thing. Investment करते वक्त business में एक चीज आपको देखनी है, वो एक चीज सबसे important है. वो कौन सी चीज है?
The return on investment.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Whom you are funding on?
What do you mean by that?
Let's say अगर कोई business है जो जिसके entrepreneurs है, मतलब who are the entrepreneurs and what are their thoughts and their credibility as well as their confidence and motivation.
Sure. So always remember, guys, the first thing which is extremely critical while you raise a round of private equity, it is not the market, it is not the product, it is not your business model, it is not how differentiated you are from your competitors. It is all about the founding team. ये स्टेज पे, जिस स्टेज की हम बात कर रहे हैं, उस स्टेज पे पैसा लोगों पे लगता है. The bet is on the jockey. Your horse is your product. In your journey, guys, your product is going to undergo several iterations. Your product, what you have started off with and what you are going to end up selling, it is going to undergo several iterations. Your customer profile is going to change. Your business model is going to change. But what is not going to change about the business is the core founding team that runs the business. And therefore, guys, the first thing which is important is what is the background and strength and skill set and execution capability of the founding team, and try and focus on the founding team and not the entrepreneur. I'm again focusing on the founding team, right? Lot of times when people come and pitch to us, we say that, अरे यार ये तो सही आइडिया है, अमेजिंग इनोवेशन है, ग्रेट बिजनेस, पर ये आदमी ठीक नहीं लग रहा है, ये आदमी का कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है. एंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स वी ऑल्सो से धंधा ठीक ठाक है, धंधा और मतलब इसको रिफाइन कर सकते हैं, बट ये आदमी तोड़ू है, ये आदमी पे पैसा लगाएंगे तो प्रॉफिट होगा, राइट? सो many founders, many entrepreneurs, SMEs, startups, they fail to realize that private equity and venture capital is yes, it is a finance business, legal business, हाँ, but first it is an HR business. यहाँ पैसा लोगों पे लगता है, यहाँ पैसा founding team पे लगता है. क्या आपकी founding team solid है? Do you have a super sexy founding team, which are a bunch of rock stars, which are coming from diverse background? What do I mean by that? 3 engineers, all good at developing technology products, all good at developing products, all good at running factories, are partners. Versus a co-founding team, which has one person who is extremely good at product innovation, another who knows how to do operations, and third knows how to raise money from the market. Which one would you choose and why? Right? Obviously, you would choose the second person, because एक बार प्रोडक्ट बन गया, उसको बेचने का तो एबिलिटी होना चाहिए, उसको ऑपरेशंस मैनेज करने का तो एबिलिटी होना चाहिए. क्या आपके पास एक फाउंडिंग टीम है? And when I say founding team, it does not necessarily mean shareholders in your company, right? These are the first few set of guys. These are the core guys who are running your business, right? And that becomes extremely critical, guys. So the first step in raising a round of capital in the form of equity, always remember, is strengthening your founding team. If you are the only person who is running the show, difficult. If you have a founding team which is looking amazing on paper, which has done execution, diverse skill sets, complementary skill sets, that is what is critical, guys. And that is what is important. Because धंधा अगर बढ़ाना है एक level, see, we all of us are in 0 to X state. But now private equity is all about X to 10X. To take your company from X to 10X, you need great people running the show for you, right? A founder is very good, a single man is very good from 0 to X stage, but X to 10X will require a solid co-founding team, a solid set of team guys. And therefore, number one box in our matrix is building a solid co-founding team. How do we go about doing that? What are the various tools, techniques to do that, right? Today, believe me, LinkedIn is the most powerful tool to make a strong team. You can network virtually with people, find like-minded skill sets, pitch to them, get them on board, get them to leave their jobs and join your team. But that is very critical. Also, guys, always remember, my experience of running businesses is forming a co-founding team or forming a core team is more like love marriage than arranged marriage. If you start looking for a core team, there may or may not be fitment. So therefore, what you have to do is go back to your days, go back, find your old colleagues, your old college mates, someone that has given you a reference of, through someone, ask for references. Find a common thing in between, because the chances of forming a good chemistry, on a cultural level, on a comfort level is much higher if you go the love marriage way in forming the co-founding team versus the arranged marriage way, because it may or may not work. And believe me, it is more important than marriage, because 10 to 15 hours a day you are going to spend with your core team. 6 hours you are going to sleep. It's only the remaining 4 or 5 hours that you are going to spend with your family, right? So this part is possibly the most important part of your life, because with these core set of guys, you are going to spend the maximum amount of your time. Imagine. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful with that. So the first box, guys, is the team. The second box as to what investors look for. And yahan pe sare SMEs maar khate hain. And this box is what is very important for us to understand, is creating a scalable business model, right? Private equity money will not come in if you are running a single factory. It will not come in if you have to kind of buy more machinery or put another factory. It will come in if you are creating a scalable business model. What is the meaning of scalable business model? Let me explain first, and then I will extend that explanation to the SME explanation. So, scalability is very simple. Can you grow your business at a very, very fast pace? And can it actually be not dependent on every time capital investment into the venture? What do I mean by that? Consider a mall business, shopping mall का धंधा. Okay, consider that. So एक मॉल बनाने के लिए हमको क्या क्या लगेगा? एक मॉल बनाने के लिए लैंड लीज करना पड़ेगा. We'll have to lease. We'll have to construct the mall. We'll have to call tenants. Now, all of this, say, takes up 15 crore rupees of capital. तो एक 15 करोड़ रुपए में हमने एक मॉल बना दिया. सोचो. Abhi, when that mall will be operational, it will have a limit when it comes to the revenue, which means a mall will cater to a radius of say 5-6 kilometers. It will get only X number of footfalls. Uske upar to wo jayega nahi. It will service a particular geography. So the maximum revenue that you can make out of a mall, say, is 50 crores a year. So आपने 15 करोड़ रुपए डाल दिए, एक मॉल बनाया, और अभी आपका रेवेन्यू 50 करोड़ के ऊपर नहीं जा रहा. Now, if you are a mall company, say if you are a mall company, and if you want to increase your revenue from 50 crores to 100 crores, आपको और 50 करोड़ रुपया कंपनी में बनाना है रेवेन्यू, तो what will you have to do? What is the logical thing that you will have to do? Any thoughts? Very, very logical answer. Anyone? I have a mall which is making 50 crore rupees of revenue, and now it is not growing. Now I want to make my company a 100 crore company. So what will I have to do? Any idea?
To start another mall.
Very simple, right? I will again have to go through the process of investing 15 crore rupees, leasing land, creating a mall. And after that also, my revenue will get capped at 100 crores. तो ये बात सुनिए, हर 10 रुपए पे रेवेन्यू के लिए, हर 10 रुपए के रेवेन्यू के लिए आपको हमेशा 2 रुपए का कैपिटल इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. This type of business, guys, is an unscalable business. इसको हम non-scalable business बोलते हैं. Whenever, for every 10 rupee of incremental revenue, if you have to every time put in 5 rupees of capital, you are in a non-scalable business. Now, why did e-commerce get so much amount of capital? Imagine one website was able to service the entire nation. Forget about the entire nation. It was able to service the entire world by creating logistics partner, by creating one website, and by forming partnerships with brands. A traditionally unscalable business model got converted into a scalable business model, because now for every additional 10 rupee of capital, you don't have to put in 5 additional 10 rupee of revenue, you don't have to put in 5 rupee of capital. And that is what is important for us to understand. To give you an example, you would have heard of a brand, called, say, Balaji Wafers, or you would have heard of a brand which is, Yellow Diamond Chips, or you would have heard of a brand, I don't know, in Gujarat, whether you've heard of this brand, but there is a very nice beer brand called Bira. Okay. Now, all of these brands, do you think that they are running their own factories? Yes, they started off with one unit to take their revenue to a particular level. But after that, what did they do? They focused on the IP, which means Bira ने वो beer का एक formula बनाया और वो formula own किया. Bira knew that every time I cannot set up a factory. So what it started doing now is it started, getting it contract manufactured from hundreds of breweries which are there in the country. फैक्ट्री वालों की कमी नहीं है, बट ब्रांड की कमी है, और ब्रांड को उन्होंने एसेट लाइट बना दिया. They were producing it themselves, but after a point in time, their factory was not enough to supply it to the entire world. Instead, what they did was they focused on creating the brand, they focused on IP, and they actually got that manufactured from hundreds of other manufacturers and distributed the product. What happened was, जो बालाजी वेफर्स का एक फैक्ट्री जो सिर्फ 50 करोड़ का रेवेन्यू बनाता था, वो आज 1500 करोड़ रुपया बना रहे, because they have made their business scalable. They have made their business asset light. They said, forget about assets. We will focus on the brand. We will focus on the IPR. We will focus on distribution. बनाने वाले तो हिंदुस्तान में हजारों है, हम बना के लेंगे. So guys, even though why have SMEs not been able to raise private equity is they have been running a factory and they have been thinking of expanding their factory by adding more capex. बट वो कैपेक्स के डालने के बाद भी एक पॉइंट आएगा व्हेन यू विल नीड मोर कैपेक्स टू पुट अप अनदर फैक्ट्री, राइट? वर्किंग कैपिटल तो छोड़ दो, दैट इज अनदर स्टोरी. Guys who have been able to create a layer of brand and distribution on top of this have been able to raise money from private equity players. And B2B में examples है, B2C में examples है, बहुत सारे SME examples है who have gone that particular route. So always try and figure out that can you guys add a layer of scalability on your existing business model. Only then प्राइवेट एक्विटी मनी विल कम इन. इफ यू आर थिंकिंग दैट कैपेक्स लगाने के लिए आपको पैसा मिलेगा प्राइवेट एक्विटी से, तो वो नहीं मिलेगा. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, वेंचर कैपिटल एंड प्राइवेट एक्विटी इन्वेस्टर्स फंड योर P&Ls एंड बैंक्स फंड योर बैलेंस शीट्स. व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू? आपको एसेट लगाना है तो आपको बैंक से लोन लेना पड़ेगा, आपको मार्केटिंग में पैसा खर्चा करना है, आपको टीम हायर करना है, आपको टेक्नोलॉजी बनाना है, इसके लिए आपको वेंचर कैपिटल प्राइवेट इक्विटी मिलेगा. आप बैंक के पास जाओ और बैंक को बोलो कि मुझे फेसबुक पे एडवर्टाइज करना है, कैन यू गिव मी लोन? द ब्रांच मैनेजर विल स्टार्ट लाफिंग एट यू बिकॉज यू आर आस्किंग मनी टू फंड योर P&L. Similarly, you go to a venture capital investor and tell him that मुझे मशीन लगाने के लिए पैसा चाहिए, so he will tell you, sorry boss, this is not what I really invest money in. Right? So always remember the difference between equity and debt. Private equity and venture capital will predominantly fund your P&L. P&L का expense उठाएंगे, expansion expense उठाएंगे. Banks will always fund your balance sheet. Asset creation banks करेंगे. The other way will not work. Right? Private equity का जन्म ही इसी के लिए हुआ कि banks P&L को fund नहीं कर रही थी. Why was there a need for equity? Why was there a need for raising money from investors? Because boss, if I have to spend money on marketing, if I have to hire people, if I have to develop new products, bank is not going to give me money, right? The kind of money that I will require, bank is not going to give me that. And that was the reason why private equity was born in the first place, right? Venture capital was born for that reason, right? It is an alternate investment and asset class is what we term. So that's the important difference between a scalable business model and a non-scalable business model. After 4 blocks, I'm going to break for questions. Let me finish the next block, which is extremely critical. And again, guys, we have to focus on this as SMEs, is your value proposition. अभी आपको बहुत ज्ञान मिला होगा value proposition पे. What is value proposition? Value proposition is nothing but what is the end benefit your product or service is offering to the customer. And I would add another complexity to it is, are you a painkiller business or are you a vitamin business? Ask yourself this question. What is a vitamin business? Vitamin D हमारे लिए अच्छा है, सेहत के लिए अच्छा है. All of us know, everyone know. Vitamin D खाना चाहिए. How many of us took a tablet of vitamin D in the morning before starting a day? Not many. Why? Because even without consuming that vitamin D tablet, I can still stand in front of you and take a session. But what if I would have fallen in the bathroom today morning and I would have broken my bone? What is the first thing that I'm going to need? And I will do whatever it takes to get that tablet. मैं कुछ भी करूंगा, किसी को भी फोन करूंगा और बोलूंगा बॉस जो मांग रहा है वो पैसा दे दे, पर वो पेन किलर की गोली अभी के अभी लेके आ. Ask yourself this question. Are you a vitamin business or are you a painkiller business? अगर कस्टमर्स आपको बोल रहे हैं कि हाँ थोड़े थोड़े बाद आ जाइए, अगर आपको बोल रहे हैं थोड़े दिन के बाद पैसे देंगे, थोड़े अभी नहीं, थोड़ा we'll decide to buy later, etc. We are in vitamin business. If customers are calling you and saying that boss take the money but माल पहुंचाओ यार, कुछ भी करके ये लो पैसा एडवांस ले लो, जो भी है माल पहुंचाओ. Are you in that business? Typically painkiller type of businesses are what are preferred. However, let me tell you, vitamin or painkiller has to be looked at from the customer segment lens. जो आपकी कस्टमर सेगमेंट है, किसी कस्टमर सेगमेंट के लिए आपका बिजनेस विटामिन होगा, पर किसी और कस्टमर सेगमेंट के लिए आपका बिजनेस पेन किलर हो सकता है, राइट? एंड दैट इज व्हाट यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई. आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. There is a village in Japan, on the southernmost tip of Japan. There is a province, there is a small province which is called as Okinawa. Okay, and Okinawa is one of the 5 blue regions, what we call as blue regions. Blue regions का क्या मतलब है? ये 4-5 पूरे वर्ल्ड में there are these regions where people live very long. 100 साल तो लोग ऐसे ही जी लेते हैं. So Okinawa is one such region in the world in Japan where there are maximum number of sanitarians. Sanitarians are the guys who have lived 100 years and above. वो region में सबसे ज्यादा लोग हैं जो 100 साल के ऊपर जिए. तो दुनिया में बहुत रिसर्च हुआ कि ऐसे क्यों, ये जापान के ये ओकिनावा प्रोविंस में ऐसे क्या बात है, व्हाट इज द रीजन दैट पीपल लिव फॉर 100 years. People studied their lifestyle, their food, etc., etc. Finally, they found out that the water that the Okinawans drink, the source of the water, is alkaline in nature. Right? Water is neutral, but Okinawans, वहाँ का जो पानी है वो alkaline है. And a theory floated that whatever are the diseases in our body is because of the tendency of the body towards becoming acidic. So these guys constantly drinking alkaline water, acid alkaline, it neutralizes and you get basically H2O, right? So there was a big trend in the world that started where people started drinking alkaline water. Actually, litmus paper अंदर डाल के वो दिखाते हैं that this is alkaline water, right? And there are brands of water. There are brands of water that supply alkaline water to creme de la creme of the society, to the top notch people in this country, right? जैसे हमारे घर में दूध आता है वैसे ये लोगों के घर पे हर सुबह अल्कलाइन वाटर की बॉटल्स आती है और उनका दिन का पानी का खर्चा 2,000 रुपए, 3,000 रुपए, 5,000 रुपए ऐसे होता है दिन का पानी का खर्चा. Now someone like me, for someone like me, alkaline water is a vitamin business. कि यार पागल है कोई 5,000 रुपए दिन का पानी पे खर्चा करेगा. Right? But for those guys, it is a painkiller business. According to them, if they don't drink alkaline water, they will die tomorrow. Right? उनको इतना वो alkaline water का, it's a painkiller for them. That if I have to live a longer life, if I have to live a better life, I need to drink alkaline water. And there are brands in India, there are brands in world that have minted money by selling alkaline water, funded by private equity guys, right? So the point that I'm trying to drive home here is that for a particular business, for a particular customer segment, are you a vitamin business or are you a painkiller business? If you are a painkiller business, the chances of you getting funded is extremely high. Final block before I move for a quick break is proof of concept. And this is something which all of us have. We are very strong as SMEs in this, that people want to see results on the ground. Right? Have you done this? Is it just an idea? आप जो बोल रहे हो वो सिर्फ एक गोली दे रहे हो या आपने कुछ उसके अराउंड किया है? Right? Have you really done something about it? And that is what we term as proof of concept. So you can't just take a new idea to the investor saying that give me money. What the investor will tell you that, okay, have you executed this idea? Have you executed this? Have you made money out of this? भले छोटे लेवल पे हो, but क्या आपने ये किया है? वो बहुत important है, right? So what investors look at, guys, there are 8 points that I'm going to tell you, out of which the 4 most critical points are team, scalability, your value proposition, which is the end benefit that the customer is going to get, and finally, do you have proof of concept, right? I'm going to take a quick 20-second pause here to see if any one of you have any questions. Over to you guys. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is regarding the painkiller or vitamin. हमें पता कैसे चलेगा कि हमारा बिजनेस पेन किलर है या विटामिन है? बिकॉज जनरली या तो everybody accepts us, everybody welcomes us and does the transaction with us, and sometimes nobody accepts us and nobody transacts with us. So
Yeah. So see, there are certain. अभी आपको आपका क्या business है? What is your business about?
we are merchant exporters
Okay.
traditionally, but now we are setting up our own B2B marketplace.
Okay. So as merchant exporters, have you any time faced a problem that people are telling you ki we will not buy right now, or let's postpone this, or is there a very deep credit cycle? One example of a vitamin business is vitamin business will have a positive working capital, whereas a painkiller business will have a negative working capital. What is a negative working capital? नेगेटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल में पैसा पहले आ जाता है. पॉजिटिव वर्किंग कैपिटल जो सारे एसएमईज का होता है. एंड द बेस्ट एग्जांपल ऑफ दिस इज ऑफ अ पेन किलर बिजनेस, आई विल टेल यू, इज एजुकेशन बिजनेस. एजुकेशन बिजनेस में क्या होता है? कॉलेज में बच्चा पढ़ने जाने के पहले, बिफोर इवन सर्विस इज गेटिंग डिलीवर्ड, full fees are paid, right? So the college takes full fees from a person even before giving him entry into the classroom. अगर ये नॉर्मल हमारे एसएमई बिजनेस की तरह होता तो हम क्या बोलते, 2 साल का एमबीए होने दो, उसके बाद 60 दिन दो, और उसके बाद हम पैसा देंगे, राइट? क्योंकि 2 साल का आपका सर्विस हो गया, टीचिंग सर्विस आपने दिया, फिर 60 दिन रुको, 60 से 90 दिन रुको, और बाद में मैं पैसा दूंगा, राइट? So education business which runs on a negative, so always remember, business which is always cash rich is actually called a negative working capital business, and businesses which get money after 90 days, 120 days is called a positive working capital business. Typically painkiller businesses are negative working capital business. I'll give you another example. My dad runs a unit which is a bottling unit. Reliance, even before delivering the raw material, you have to pay them because pure monopoly. उसके बगैर वो माल भेजेंगे ही नहीं. They will not even ship the goods, right? No, whereas when we deliver the goods, the client says that come back to us after 90 days of delivery, right? So purely, the business that Reliance is doing is a painkiller business, and we are in a vitamin business, right? So there are things like these which can help you in gauging whether you are a positive or whether you are a vitamin or a painkiller.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm into manufacturing of bearings. Like you said, bearings एक ऐसी चीज है कि जो अगर मशीन रुक जाता है तो उनको at any cost they need it, right? But उसमें before COVID the terms were like 60 to 90 days, right? अभी वही रिक्वायरमेंट है, एवरीथिंग इज द सेम, पर अभी टर्म्स जो है वो कम हो गई बिकॉज नोबडी इज ट्रस्टिंग ईच अदर. तो इज दिस विटामिन बिजनेस और पेन किलर टाइप?
So this has to be looked at, with one more thing which I'm going to take in the 8th box, which is entry barrier. क्या है? कोई बिजनेस, अभी सब्जी का बिजनेस फॉर एग्जांपल, हाँ, सब्जी बेचने वाला जो अपने नीचे सब्जी मंडी पे सब्जी बेचता है, उसका क्या बिजनेस है? विटामिन बिजनेस है या पेन किलर बिजनेस है? ऐसे देखा जाए तो वो पेन किलर बिजनेस है, बिना सब्जी के तो हम जी ही नहीं सकते. बट प्रॉब्लम उसमें क्या हुई है? इट इज अ कमोडिटाइज बिजनेस विथ वेरी लो एंट्री बैरियर्स. इतने सारे सब्जी बेचने वाले आपको मिलेंगे. व्हेन यू स्टेप ऑन द रोड, you will find so many people who are selling vegetables that it is no more for him, it is not a painkiller business, right? So similarly in your case, what has happened is, while bearings there is need, but there are it's basically in a way at this point in time a commoditized business, right? How are you differentiating yourself from another guy, right? Or what is it? Is the technology special that one manufacturer really wants bearings from your company only? Is there some entry barrier that you have built in this business? Otherwise it becomes a commodity business. therefore that is also very important for us to kind of figure out, right? That कोई business के हम बिना जी नहीं सकते, but आप अगर नहीं supply कर पाओगे, yeah, the example of vegetable, if one vegetable vendor is not there, I can find hundreds others who can service that. फिर वो painkiller रहा क्या, right? So that's the thing.
Okay.
Right? Don't think of it from a product, think of it from a market, from a vitamin or painkiller side, right? Are you able to kind of capture that? A lot of time, brand does that game. In commoditized markets, brand plays. अभी shoes, okay, shoes का क्या, बाटा भी shoes बेचता है, जो भी है, but यार लोग पागलों की तरह नाइकी के shoes खरीदते हैं. अभी नाइकी ने क्या किया है, नाइकी ने कमोडिटाइज मार्केट को पेन किलर बना दिया कि मैं अगर भागने जा रहा हूं और मैं नाइकी के शूज नहीं पहन रहा हूं तो मतलब मेरा तो स्टेटस कहीं का कहीं नहीं रहा, राइट? मैंने MI के या डीकैथलॉन के कलेंजी के शूज 800 रुपए के शूज पहन के मैं नहीं भागूंगा, राइट? प्रोडक्ट कमोडिटी है, बट उसको उन्होंने एक ब्रांड का एंगल डाल के प्रीमियम बना के पेन किलर बना दिया, राइट? That's the whole idea.
Follow-up question, sir.
Yes, sir.
आपने कहा था एंट्री बैरियर्स भी काफी रोल प्ले करते हैं,
राइट?
व्हाट हैपेंस कि आपकी इंडस्ट्री में एंट्री बैरियर है ही नहीं बिल्कुल भी,
बराबर,
लेकिन एग्जीक्यूशन बैरियर्स बहुत सारे हैं, तो
बराबर,
एंटर बहुत लोग हो जाते हैं लेकिन टिकता 1 साल भी कोई 90% लोग 1 full year भी नहीं टिक पाते हैं.
बराबर. So essentially it is an entry barrier in a way. I'm saying कि लोग चाहते तो है, लोगों को ऑन द फेस लगता है कि बहुत सिंपल धंधा है, बट जब करने की बारी आती है तब सब लोग मर जाते हैं, राइट? So
Yes.
in a way I would consider that as an entry barrier because execution is heavy, and at times if execution is heavy, only the people with expertise can do that, and your expertise is therefore a moat for you. मोट मतलब पुराने जमाने में वो जो पोर्ट होता था उसके अगल बगल में लोगों ने वो गड्ढा बना देते थे बहुत डीप, उसको मोट कहते हैं, राइट? सो दैट बिकम्स द मोट फॉर योर बिजनेस, दैट
मोट एज इन
MOAT, right? It is basically a moat for your business, right?
Yes, but हम जब अगर इन्वेस्टर की पिच डेक रेडी कर रहे हैं या किसी इंक्यूबेटर के लिए हम पिच रेडी कर रहे हैं, तो वंस अगेन मेरे बिजनेस में टेक्निकली एंट्री बैरियर नहीं है, एग्जीक्यूशन बैरियर्स ही है. तो मुझे अपनी स्लाइड में प्रॉपर लिखना पड़ेगा कि एंट्री बैरियर
नहीं, आप एग्जीक्यूशन बैरियर पे फोकस कीजिए ना, आप जो है वो बोल दीजिएगा कि देखिए लोग कर लेते हैं बट ये 4 रीजंस है उसकी वजह से लोग गिर जाते हैं और ये 4 रीजंस हमारी स्ट्रेंथ है, इसके लिए हम टिके रहे हैं, तो इट विल बी इजीली कम्युनिकेटेड. यू शुड टॉक अबाउट इट.
यस, थैंक यू.
Any further questions? Okay, so let me now move on to the smaller boxes which are easy to understand. The 5th box is basically monetization model. What is monetization model? Monetization model is nothing but how will you make money? How does your business make money? And the entire margin structure of the business, right? Gross profit kitna hai, आपका COGS कितना है, everything in terms of margin and how are you making money. So that becomes your monetization model. Typically, upwards of 60-65% gross profit is what is expected out of you if you are looking at capital raising, which means what? Pure play trading business में अगर आप हो तो maybe you are not fit for raising a round of capital. That's where again, like I said, a brand increases your gross profit to a significant extent. So your monetization model predominantly means how will you make money out of your business. आइडिया तो सही है, धंधा तो सही है, सब कुछ सही है, पर क्या आपका बिजनेस पैसा बनाएगा और कितना बना सकता है. The next excuse me, the next core element of the matrix is the market size. How large is your market? Are you building something which has a large market, sizable market, or are you building something which is very very niche, जिसके बायर्स अभी बहुत कम है, तो अगर मार्केट का साइज ही 50 करोड़ निकला तो आप ज्यादा से ज्यादा 10-15 करोड़ की कंपनी बन सकते हो, बट अगर मार्केट ही 1 लाख करोड़ का है तो आपको भी 500 करोड़ कंपनी बनने के लिए आपको आसानी है, So it is very important to understand what business you are doing, how large is the market. Are you doing something which is very, very niche, or are you doing something which is for a broader, market, right? Again, a good SME example in this, which we started off when we discussed this, we started off, a private equity funded company called Cycle Agarbatti, right? An SME. अभी आप सोचिए अगरबत्ती का मार्केट, राइट? हर दिन हिंदुस्तान के 50-60 करोड़ घरों में हर दिन अगरबत्ती 2 टाइम जलती है, एक बार सुबह एक बार शाम। तो इसका मार्केट इतना बड़ा है। और प्रॉब्लम क्या था? कमोडिटी था, विच मीन्स हर कोई अगरबत्ती बेच रहा था, there were local brands, etc. What Cycle did was added a layer of brand and made it a pan-India, pan-nation brand of agarbatti. None of us thought that there can be a brand of agarbatti, right? This is a theme in capital raising which is called unorganized to organized. एक unorganized market है जो मंदिर के बाहर बैठता था या स्टेशन के बाहर बैठता था, वो ही प्रोडक्ट को एक ब्रांड बनाने के बाद proper channel through distribute kiya, which means Cycle will be available at a retail store. It will be available at a, your kirana store, right? Like an FMCG product. They treated agarbatti as an FMCG product and not as a, commodity which is available on the streets. And they raised money. Huge market, example of that, and whatever is a large market, essentially you get funding for, building a business on top of that. Then we have exit strategy. Boss, always remember, private equity investors do not invest in you for dividends. वो आप में 10 करोड़ डाल के 20% स्टेक लेंगे, समझो, तो वो 20% स्टेक के अगेंस्ट आपसे हर साल 20% प्रॉफिट नहीं एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे. They want the profits to go back into the company, but what they are expecting is 10 करोड़ डाल के जो मैंने 20% लिया है, वो 5 साल के बाद, 10 साल के बाद वही 20% मैं 1000 करोड़ में किसी को बेच के निकल जाऊंगा, राइट? So it is like buying a stock at 100 rupees and selling it for 1000 rupees. That is the game that private equity guys play. We don't have to share any profits or dividends throughout the year. We have to ensure that the valuation increases year on year at a massive pace, and that is what we call as exit. तो आपने जो पैसा रेस किया है प्राइवेट इक्विटी से, उसको आप एग्जिट कैसे दिलाओगे? एग्जिट देने के 2 तरीके होते हैं. एक है या तो कंपनी का आईपीओ करवा दो या कंपनी को बेच दो, राइट? ईदर गो फॉर लिस्टिंग और गो फॉर मर्जर्स एंड एक्विजिशंस, राइट? सो examples of this again are, all of us know about Flipkart. So many investors invested in Flipkart. How did they make money? How did they exit? At the end of it, Walmart came and bought Flipkart. So every investor who had invested made tons of money when Walmart bought Flipkart. Or there is a brand called Just Dial. Okay, Just Dial के इतने सारे investors थे. Just Dial के investors ने कैसे exit किया? Just Dial के investors ने exit किया by listing the company on stock exchange, and you and I bought the shares. Mrs. Bector's जो Cremica अभी IPO हो रहा है, right? What is it? It is a private equity funded. Motilal Oswal has invested in that company, private equity money, and now a portion of it is exit proceeds, right? So this is the game, guys. So जब इन्वेस्टर पैसा डालने का सोचता है, तो वो टाइम पे वो ये भी सोचता है कि पैसा निकलेगा कैसे. ये चक्रव्यूह का स्टोरी है. Entering the Chakravyuh for Abhimanyu is not that difficult. He remembers it, how to enter. Problem आ जाता है पैसा डालने के बाद. जब हम पैसा डाल के कंपनी में बैठते हैं, वो बाहर निकलना is the real, difficult part. Why difficult, guys? Because these are illiquid investments. ये ऐसा नहीं है कि आपका स्टॉक लिस्टेड है और आप कल जाके, आज आपने खरीदा, कल जाके किसी को बेच दिया. These are over the counter illiquid investments. This is a binary game, which means what? Either you will make money and exit, or your money will go down the drain. इसमें ऐसा गेम नहीं है कि 100 रुपया डाला तो मैं चलो 50 पे तो निकल गया. नो, 100 रुपए का या तो 1000 रुपया होगा या 100 रुपए का जीरो हो जाएगा. It's not, it's very binary, and therefore this is private equity and venture capital, guys, is the riskiest asset class that you can find. Riskiest asset class, right? Because of its illiquid nature, and because the companies are at an early stage, and therefore the inherent risk of the business model is very high. So investors will ask you this question upfront. पैसा तो मांग रहे हो, but exit कैसे दिलाओगे? हमें 5 साल के बाद जब निकलना पड़ेगा तो क्या करोगे? So do you have a plan to do a merger or an acquisition, or do you have a plan to go and get yourself listed? All of these things are extremely critical to understand and know at the very beginning. Finally, what I mentioned was about the entry barriers or the moats, right? Are you creating any entry barriers? How easy or difficult it is for someone to just start operating in your domain. Typically आज के तारीख में एंट्री बैरियर बनाना ये इम्पॉसिबल है, ये बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. कोई ना कोई आके प्राइस का या ज्योग्राफी का एडवांटेज लेके कुछ ना कुछ करके आज हमें एंट्री बैरियर से रोक रहा है टू क्रिएट एंट्री बैरियर. तो हाउ डू वी क्रिएट एंट्री बैरियर? व्हाट डू वी डू? एग्जिस्टिंग आपका सेक्टर कमोडिटाइज है, सब ट्रेडिशनल है, एक टेक्नोलॉजी का लेयर डाल दो जो एंट्री बैरियर बन जाएगा. या सबसे बड़ा एंट्री बैरियर आज की तारीख में है पैसा. Do you think, and again I'll give you an example that all of us have heard about OYO rooms. आज कॉलेज का फाइनल ईयर का बच्चा OYO रूम का ऐप बना सकता है और होटल्स ऑनबोर्ड कर सकता है. But do you think he will survive against OYO today? No. Why? Because OYO ने 10,000 करोड़ रुपया उठा के रखा है. वो 10,000 करोड़ के सामने आज मैं बना तो सकता हूँ OYO का ऐप, आज मैं 5, 6, 10 होटल्स को ऑनबोर्ड कर सकता हूँ, बट आज अगर मैं ये बोलूंगा पब्लिक में कि मुझे OYO को कॉम्पीट करना है तो लोग हंस पड़ेंगे. क्यों? 10,000 करोड़ के सामने क्या टिक पाओगे? So always remember, capital can be your entry barrier, and that is the reason why people try and raise a large round of capital. E-commerce में भी यही हुआ. सबको पता था यार एक वेबसाइट बनाने के लिए, प्रोडक्ट बेचने के लिए कुछ ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा, सब सीख जाएंगे. इसके लिए क्या करते हैं, फटाक से 15,000 करोड़ उठा लेते हैं मार्केट से. अब जाके जब कोई वेबसाइट बनाने वाला निकलेगा तो लोग उसको कहेंगे तू पागल है, तू 15,000 करोड़ के सामने नहीं टिक पाएगा, और वो एक्चुअली असल में नहीं टिक पाएगा. राइट? सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, वन वे टू बिल्ड एंट्री बैरियर इज मनी. राइट? रेज सो मच कैपिटल फ्रॉम द मार्केट दैट किसी और को आपके साथ compete करने में दिक्कत हो जाएगी. Right? That is what the matrix is. Now, if you look at this screen, this is through my experience of last 10 years, whatever I have seen as capital raises happening. This is a tool which I have developed, which will give you a snapshot that if you want to raise a round of funding, these are the core 8 things that any investor would look for. These are the core 8 points that any investor would ask you. Are you ready for it? Do you have all these things in place? If not, आज सोचना चालू कर दीजिए. Today, you can start thinking on these lines and make your business fundable. पहले दिन पे कोई fundable business idea का नहीं लेके आता. You have to add the layer of innovation, etc. The whole concept of SME Accelerator Next Orbit was to give you a flavor of this. कि बॉस अभी आगे बढ़ना है तो ऊपर वाली सोच चाहिए. ऊपर वाली सोच का मतलब क्या है? आज तक हम एक सोच रहे थे, अभी उसके ऊपर वाली सोच लानी है, और वो ऊपर वाली सोच ही एजेंडा है हमारे ये सेशन. भले आज आप ये पूरे बॉक्सेस में आज फिट नहीं हो रहे होंगे, पर सोचना तो चालू कर देते हैं. फिगर आउट चालू कर, एक एक बॉक्स, वन बॉक्स एट अ टाइम. लेट्स ट्राई एंड पुट इट टुगेदर, एंड इन फ्यू मंथ्स वी विल बी एबल टू रेज मनी फ्रॉम द मार्केट. I'm going to take a quick 20-second break before I ask you guys to let me know that do you have any questions, any discussion points. Happy to take it from you. Anyone? Any experiences that you want to share? Anything that you want to talk about? Cool. So what we will do?
Sir,
Yeah.
sorry,
Please
can
go.
I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, how can, let's say, if you are starting a company, let's say it's already there, but for any PE or VC, how can we assure that after 5 years we will merge with some company or someone will buy this company when we are not sure?
That's the point. You have to tell him that you have to start working towards it, right? Nahi to, see, it is like saying this. You are going to an investor and saying that, sir, मुझे 50 करोड़ चाहिए, पर मैं कैसे लौटाऊंगा मुझे पता नहीं.
That's true, but I don't know कि after 5 years कोई इसको लेगा या कौन लेगा या तब इसकी वैल्यूएशन क्या?
स्ट्रेटेजिकली सोचो ना मार्केट में क्या हो रहा है और इसके लिए ट्रेंड्स जाने जाते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई VCs आल्सो लुक एट सेक्टर्स, राइट? अगर आपके बेरिंग्स के बिजनेस में एक पर्टिकुलर टेक्नोलॉजी पे आप काम कर रहे हो जो essentially that is going to be future, industry is going to shift to that, then a large brand might buy you out. If you have great distribution in India, then an outside player who wants to enter the Indian market might buy you out, right? You have to, और उसी के वही तरीके से आपको सोचना पड़ेगा. या आप इतने बड़े हो जाओगे कि आप IPO कर सकते हो, right? You can always go for listing. Now we have a SME exchange, we have a startup exchange apart from the main board. So listing can be an option. But कुछ तो आपको बोलना पड़ेगा कि मैं एग्जिट इस तरीके से दिला सकता हूँ और ये प्रोबेबिलिटीज है हर एक एग्जिट की. अग्रीड, हर कोई धंधा बिक नहीं जाता है, हर कोई धंधा बेचते नहीं है, राइट? बट क्या आप लिस्ट हो सकते हो, क्या आप और बड़े हो सकते हो, अदरवाइज पैसे कैसा मिलेगा? प्राइवेट इक्विटी और वेंचर कैपिटल, ये जो इन्वेस्टर्स है ना, ये कौन लोग हैं? Who are these guys? These are fund managers who have taken money from pension funds, endowment schemes, HNIs, corporates for a period of 10 years. फंड का लाइफ होता है वो 10 साल होता है. तो आपके कंपनी में फंड से पैसा आएगा, एग्जिट होके उन इन्वेस्टर्स को वापस जाएगा, राइट? तो इसके लिए एक टाइम बाउंड एग्जिट मिलना ये बहुत जरूरी है. बिकॉज जो फंड चला रहा है, अगर मैं फंड चला रहा हूं तो मैंने कहीं से पैसा 10 साल के लिए उठाया है, राइट? मैंने आगे प्रॉमिस किया है उन लोगों को कि 10 साल के बाद आपको मैं पैसा दूंगा. इसका मतलब क्या? मुझे पहले 2-3 साल में पैसा डिप्लॉय करना है और 7वें-8वें साल तक मुझे पैसा निकालना चालू कर देना है, राइट? दैट इज हाउ अ प्राइवेट इक्विटी और अ वेंचर कैपिटल फंड वर्क्स. दिस इज नॉट प्रोप्राइटरी मनी. ये जो पैसा डाल रहे हैं उनका खुद का पैसा नहीं है. ये पैसा आ रहा है पेंशन फंड से, इंश्योरेंस कंपनी से, जो एक छोटा सा अमाउंट ये वेंचर कैपिटल या प्राइवेट इक्विटी फंड को दे देते हैं टू इन्वेस्ट इन अर्ली स्टेज बिजनेसेस. दैट इज हाउ इट इज, राइट? ग्रेट. एनी फर्दर क्वेश्चंस गाइस? Cool. So what we are going to do is, it's 9:36. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break, to just think about whatever we've discussed, to take a break. In exactly 5 minutes, we will circle back and I'm going to take you through the next topics and we are going to interact further. I hope you've gained some value. I hope, the past 1 hour has been, good for you in terms of knowledge, in terms of, perspective. And break के बाद हम उसी को continue करेंगे. So see you guys after the break. Okay, so welcome back. Um, you know, so what we understood in the first segment is that what do investors really look for while investing in a particular business? What are the core 8, 9 elements that you as an SME need to focus on to even think of raising money in the form of private equity or venture capital? Now, how does the entire capital raising process work like? That is what I'm going to spend some time on at this point in time. So, guys, it starts, this is how a growth map of a venture looks like on your screen, right? When you start your business, when you grow your business, the first round of funding comes from your close knit family members, your friends, your relatives, etc., and one or two guys who are from outside. And that investment is what we call as a seed round, a friends or family round, angel round, etc. There are various terms which are used, right? Always remember, no venture capital or private equity on day one is going to just invest in you. First, you will have to get capital from different sources. So the first source of capital will be your close, network. Your own people will first invest in your business. Then you will go to an institution like a venture capital fund or a private equity fund. And that is where we call it as Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, and so on and so forth. So these are various rounds of funding. Uh, Typically, below 100 crore ticket size is what we call as venture capital. Above 100 crore ticket size is what we term as private equity. Both in itself, everything is essentially private equity, which means what? Investing in a private limited company, investing in a privately held company, right? It's just the difference is in the stage. So at a very early stage, we call it seed or angel, then we call it venture capital, then we call it private equity. And where does the story end? Where does this entire story end? It ends at an IPO or a strategic sale, which is a merger or an acquisition. So this is how typically the growth map looks like, right? And at every point in time, at every stage, you will have to keep raising capital to fund your expansion plans. Now, ऐसा नहीं है कि आज आपने एक कैपिटल राउंड रेस कर दिया और आपने डायरेक्ट 10 साल के बाद आईपीओ किया, नहीं, आपको कैपिटल रेस कर करके आपका वैल्यूएशन भी बढ़ाना पड़ेगा ताकि आईपीओ स्टेज पे या मर्जर या एक्विजिशन स्टेज पे आपका वैल्यू बहुत बड़ा बन जाए, जिसकी वजह से प्रॉफिट्स बहुत आ जाए. तो इट्स नॉट दैट you can raise just one round of funding and forget it, right? You will have to consistently bring in additional capital, more capital from investors throughout the journey. So whether you want to go that route or not is a question. Second thing, guys, is that equity funding comes with lot of giving away of controls, right? जाहिर सी बात है कि आज आपने अगर किसी को 5 करोड़, 2 करोड़, 50 लाख दे दिए, किसी बिजनेस में आपने इन्वेस्ट किए, तो आप उसको पूछेंगे कि प्रोग्रेस कैसा चल रहा है, ये क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, नंबर्स मीट हो रहे हैं क्या, क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं. So private equity goes a stage ahead, and they also take up a seat on the board. So the private equity fund guys will have a seat on the board through which they will have a control over your board. The agreements, etc., will be so tightly created that you will essentially, I won't say end up losing control of the company, but in every decision making on a strategic level, you will have to take the private equity guys on board, right? आप मन मर्जिया आपके हिसाब से डिसीजन मेकिंग नहीं कर सकते. छोटे छोटे ऑपरेशंस, yes, but all strategic main decisions have to be taken up according to the board. You as a promoter plays 3 roles, guys, and all these 3 roles are distinct roles. One, you are the shareholder in the company. Second, you are the CEO of the company. And third, you are a director on the board. And all these 3 roles are separate roles, guys. इसका मतलब क्या है कि अगर प्राइवेट इक्विटी फंड को लगता है कि आप एक अच्छे सीईओ नहीं हो, आप कंपनी के हेड, यू आर नॉट गुड इनफ टू हेड ए कंपनी or to take the company to the next level, there are provisions through which the board can actually remove you as the CEO. Lot of people think, अरे एप्पल तो स्टीव जॉब्स की कंपनी थी, उसने बनाई थी, तो उसको सीईओ के रोल से हटा कैसे दिया? इसी वजह से हटा दिया क्योंकि आप बोर्ड पे आपका एक डायरेक्टर होता है, राइट? आप शेयर होल्डर रहोगे. स्टीव जॉब्स वाज स्टिल द शेयर होल्डर. नो वन कैन रिमूव यू एज अ शेयर होल्डर, बट people can now remove you from the executive role that you are playing, which is leading the company, which we call as the CEO role, right? So जो luxury, जो flexibility हमें एक family run business या एक privately held business में मिलती है कि आप finances में आप बहुत सारे expenses book करते हो, we book a lot of personal expenses. We draw salary as per our own, will, right? All of this gets regularized. So your salary, your bonus, the leaves that you will take, you will sign an employment agreement with the company. You are also an employee of the company. And therefore, just the way other employees are treated, you will be having your own package, own, XYZ norms, etc. Right? And the more number of rounds you raise, the more such things would happen with you, right? And therefore, a lot of people, by choice, decide that, hey, ये सब मेरे को नहीं चाहिए. I am good as a single founder or as a family-run business. I am growing at my own pace. I am making money, so why get into this? Why lose control? Why stop? Why start reporting to investors, and why start giving them monthly MIS, etc., right? And therefore a lot of businesses have stayed away from the private equity market purely because they don't want to get into this whole objective of giving control or losing control or sharing control with someone else. That's a choice that you also will have to make, because believe me guys, हिंदुस्तान में इसके पहले भी धंधा प्राइवेट इक्विटी और वेंचर कैपिटल के बिना बना था और इसके आगे भी बनेगा. ऐसे नहीं है कि अगर वेंचर कैपिटल फंडिंग नहीं आया तो धंधा बंद हो जाएगा, राइट? ऑब्वियसली द पेस ऑफ ग्रोथ विल बी लोअर, बट it comes with its own baggages, and you have to be prepared for those baggages. It is a liability on the founder's shoulder to give exit to the investor, right? Therefore, all such things have to be taken care of. All such things have to be actually evaluated even before preparing for private equity round. Otherwise, why would you, waste your time, right? And that is what I want to kind of frankly tell you guys, that make a choice. Obviously, if you raise a round of capital, you will have wings, right? You will be able to fly. Currently, you are running, but those wings will come with certain controls that you will have to actually bear with. Any questions around this, guys? Any thoughts around this? Any doubts?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, as you said, we have to for the investors will be on the board, so we have to ask them for any strategic decisions. So can you elaborate what kind of decisions which are made on board by board members?
Sure. So I'll tell you, you have to do a capex of 10 lakh rupees, for example. 15 लाख रुपए का कुछ capex करना है, तो आपको इन्वेस्टर से पूछना पड़ेगा. अगर आपको कोई सीनियर लेवल पोजीशन पर्सन को हायर करना है या किसी सीनियर लेवल पोजीशन पर्सन को आप फायर कर रहे हो, तो आपको ये बोर्ड के साथ डिस्कस करना पड़ेगा. आपको आपकी सैलरी बढ़ानी है तो आपको बोर्ड के पास जाना पड़ेगा. आपको कोई लोन लेना है, इफ यू वांट टू गेट अवेल डेट फैसिलिटी, राइट, you will have to again go back to the board, right? So these are key decisions, right? Tomorrow, if you want to actually sell a part of your business, or if you want to open one new enterprise, one new entity, you will have to take the, you will have to get to the board and get the clear go ahead, right? lot of times what happens is there are veto rights, which means what, आपके साइड से 2 लोग होंगे और इन्वेस्टर साइड से 1 डायरेक्टर होगा. तो आप तो बोलोगे कि अरे मेरे तो 2 डायरेक्टर है, तो हमेशा मैं जो बोलूंगा वही तो होगा क्योंकि 2:1. बट इन्वेस्टर क्या करता है, ये मैंने जो पॉइंट्स आपको बोले हैं वो रिजर्व्ड मैटर क्लॉज करके एक होता है आपके अग्रीमेंट में. वो रिजर्व्ड मैटर क्लॉज क्या बोलता है कि whenever there are decisions to be made on these 10-12 points, even though I am minority, my decision will prevail, right? And that is the agreement that you have signed with the investor, which will hold true in the courts of law. Because ये agreement क्या, आपने stamp duty भरा है, जो agreement कर रहे हैं आप, you are actually registering that agreement, right? And in that agreement, all of these clauses are mentioned, right? So these are some of the pointers with which you have to live with, essentially, right? And if it is an individual, so I have known cases in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, where certain individuals have invested, and after that, the individual acts like a co-founder and not as an investor, right? So you have to be, versus private equity funds, etc. These guys will have it everything clear on paper. और ये पहले दिन से ही ये clearly mention किया होगा, agreement कर की जाए. So you have to be very, careful about these things.
Vikrant sir,
Yeah.
adding to that last question, I wanted to ask, is there a possibility that a founder can play with these term sheets and conditions, or these regulations comes as a must for any private equity raise?
So see, ये regulation नहीं है, ये agreement है 2 party के बीच, right? So typically private equity, to protect your capital, private equity and venture capital investors want this. This is a must, right? Which goes in your agreement. अभी ये आपने breach किया, तो agreement में ये भी लिखा होता है कि if any of these clauses you breach, this clause what we term as event of default. If you default on your obligations in the agreement, there are certain things that happen, which means what, immediately you have to buy back my shares, I will exercise a put option, etc. etc. So boss, ये बहुत watertight agreements होती है, और ये मतलब legal teams and all of these guys have kind of created that. And if you are signing it, my point is, अगर आप ये sign कर रहे हो तो आपको पता है, तो you better follow it. और आपको नहीं करना है, तो you might as well not sign it, right? You say no to money. So that is very critical.
Right. Sir, actually, I'm trying to ask, are these terms and conditions generally negotiable? Let's say
these are negotiable.
Voting rights and everything.
Like reserved matter, etc. are a no-go condition. There is no negotiation of it. Right? Negotiation के terms अलग है, ये terms अलग है. Right? Certain terms can be negotiated, certain cannot. जब भी कभी capital protection की बात आएगी, तो private equity guys will be, very, very careful.
Got it. Thank you, sir, for answering that.
Any further questions, guys? Any more thoughts? I'm going to just wait for 10 seconds to see if you guys have any questions.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's like we are raising the debt from the family and friends. So if they are willing to go with the equity, so what should we do?
So
if they are not agreeing with the debt, then
so go for equity, but be with individuals. Always ensure you have a good agreement in place. क्या होता है, individuals जो समझते नहीं है और agreement नहीं है, कल उठ के अगर आप उनको पैसे की जरूरत पड़ी और कल उठ के वो आपका दरवाजा खटखटाए कि बॉस मैंने तो पैसा डाला था इक्विटी में, अभी मुझे वो वापस चाहिए, तो आप कहाँ से दे पाओगे? तो अग्रीमेंट में अगर होगा कि 5 साल तक आप आ ही नहीं सकते हो मेरे पास पैसा मांगने के लिए, एग्जिट आई विल गिव यू आफ्टर 5 years. बिफोर 5 years हुआ तो वेल एंड गुड, बट ऑब्लिगेशन नहीं है मुझे पैसा वापस करने का, एग्जिट दिलाने का. तो ये सारी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस आपको अच्छे से डिफाइन करनी चाहिए पैसा लेने के पहले, राइट? if you are not able to define that, and if you just take the money loose, आपने terms रखी, so that can be problematic in future, and that is what I will suggest. Always remember, guys, investors is the objective of the investor is not to gain control of your business, or the objective is not to kind of capture your business. The objective is to grow the money, but in case they feel that things are going in the wrong direction, then they are exercising these rights to protect their capital. That's it. तो ऐसा आप मत सोचिए कि वेंचर कैपिटल और प्राइवेट इक्विटी मतलब ये तो धंधा खा लेंगे, वो बात नहीं है. ये अग्रीमेंट कब आती है पता है बाहर अपने these agreements and all are lying in the cupboards. When do they come out? When things are not going right, only then agreement बाहर निकलती है. अगर सब कुछ सही है तो agreement देखने का चांस ही नहीं मिलता. So that's the whole story. But paperwork तो होना चाहिए. I mean, I am a strong believer of the fact that whenever you take money from anyone, always ensure that there is there is terms and conditions which is clearly mentioned, and any term and condition only written on paper is of no use unless you register that agreement, right? So वो stamp paper होना चाहिए उस पे, ऐसे ही नहीं कि आप word पे 4 चीजें लिख दी, साइन की और हो गया, उसको कोई मतलब नहीं है, right? It has to be essentially, you have to pay a duty on that paper to actually register it. So typically equity में 0.2% is the stamp duty. So जैसे real estate में अभी for example in Maharashtra, if you do a real estate deal, 2% is the stamp duty, right? Similarly, if you are doing any deal in India in equity, if you are buying equity, the shareholders agreement has a 0.2% stamp duty. So अगर आप 40 करोड़ का डील कर रहे हो तो आपको 8 लाख रुपया तो स्टैम्प ड्यूटी भरनी है, और बिना ये भरे ये अग्रीमेंट का कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. सिमिलरली आप जब किसी को शेयर्स इशू करते हो तो उस पे 0.1% ड्यूटी लगती है. अगर आपने ड्यूटी भरी नहीं है, स्टैम्प ड्यूटी भरी नहीं, तो वो स्क्वायर पेपर्स का कोई मतलब नहीं है. आप खुद के भी शेयर सर्टिफिकेट्स चेक कर लो और सीएस से पूछ लो कि क्या हमने स्टैम्प ड्यूटी भरी है. तो स्टैम्प ड्यूटी की एक छोटी सी रिसीट आती है उसके ऊपर चिपक के. तो जब भी कभी आप शेयर्स भी इशू करते हो तभी भी आपको स्टैम्प ड्यूटी भरनी है, अलग से शेयर सर्टिफिकेट्स पे और अलग से अग्रीमेंट पे. तो ये सारे those are the things, the way you make a real estate a private equity deal a valid deal, right? Otherwise it is all loose, which has no meaning. Any further questions, guys? Any more thoughts? Okay. So, before I stop talking and, start asking questions and start discussion, I just want to, discuss one topic with you guys. Is हम सबको पता है कि जब हम प्राइवेट इक्विटी से पैसा उठाते हैं या इक्विटी से पैसा उठाते हैं तो उनको रिटर्न में हमको शेयर्स देने पड़ते हैं. तो मेरा सवाल ये है, ये शेयर्स कौन देता है? Who gives these shares? किसके किटी में से ये शेयर्स चले जाते हैं? तो एग्जाम्पल, आपके कंपनी में एक इन्वेस्टर 10 करोड़ रुपया डाल रहा है और वो इन्वेस्टर बोल रहा है कि मुझे 20% शेयर्स चाहिए. तो ये 20% शेयर्स कौन देगा इन्वेस्टर को? Who will give the shares? Any idea? कहां से आएंगे ये शेयर्स? Any thoughts?
इतने प्रमोटर्स है या एडवाइजर्स है, उन सब के 20% कट के उनको जाएगा.
Okay, any more thoughts? तो अगर सबसे 20% कट के जाएंगे तो पैसा तो उनके जेब में जाना चाहिए, पैसा कंपनी के जेब में कैसे जाएगा? So the question is, guys, that if I am a founder owning 100% shares, and if I am raising 10 crore rupees for the expansion of my business, the company has to, the money 10 crores has to go to the company's bank account. तो अगर पैसा कंपनी के बैंक अकाउंट में जाएगा तो मेरे शेयर्स कैसे इन्वेस्टर को जाएंगे? कुछ तो गलत है।
कंपनी अपने शेयर, कंपनी कैन क्रिएट न्यू शेयर्स, जैसे किसी की 1 लाख शेयर्स है, किसी ने 50,000 शेयर्स उसने और क्रिएट कर दिए।
So always remember guys, this is a very basic concept in private equity. जब कभी आप पैसा मांग रहे हो कंपनी के एक्सपेंशन के लिए, तो आपके जेब से शेयर्स नहीं जाते हैं इन्वेस्टर्स को, कंपनी नए शेयर्स क्रिएट कर लेती है और वो शेयर्स इन्वेस्टर को देती है। पर वो नए शेयर्स करने के चक्कर में क्या हो जाता है, टोटल नंबर ऑफ शेयर्स इन द कंपनी इंक्रीजेस। So if there were 100 shares that you are owning, now there are 20 more shares that are created by the company to be given to the investor. Because of that, what happens is your shareholding falls. The shareholding falls whenever you raise a round of funding. आपका shareholding गिरेगा, आपके number of shares नहीं गिरेंगे. Always remember this concept, right? And that's the reason why this concept is called as dilution. Why is it called dilution? Because shares और create हो रहे हैं, इसके लिए आपके shares dilute हो रहे हैं, right? And that is what is the whole concept of dilution, guys. It is very important to understand and very, very fundamental concept. Whenever you are giving your shares, मेरे पास मेरे कंपनी के 10,000 shares है, अगर उसमें से मैं किसी को 200 shares दूंगा तो वो 200 शेयर्स के पैसे मेरे पर्सनल बैंक अकाउंट में आने चाहिए। तो मुझे कंपनी में पैसे चाहिए कंपनी के एक्सपेंशन के लिए, तो अगर कंपनी के एक्सपेंशन के लिए मुझे पैसे चाहिए तो आई विल हैव टू क्रिएट न्यू शेयर्स, द कंपनी विल हैव टू क्रिएट फ्रेश शेयर्स, इट इज कॉल्ड अ प्राइमरी इशुएंस। बट सब हम मिलके जब पैसा हमारा कंपनी बेच देंगे तब क्या होगा, अपने अपने शेयर्स हम किसी को चिपका के अपने बैंक अकाउंट में पैसे लेके आए। दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज एग्जिट और व्हाट वी कॉल एज सेकेंडरी, राइट? सो ये मैथ जो है वो भी हमको समझना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट मैथ, दैट हाउ मेनी शेयर्स विल बी इशूड, हु विल इशू शेयर्स, व्हाट प्राइस, एक्सेट्रा, राइट? Unfortunately in India very few CAs also know this in detail when it comes to raising private equity, right? They are very good at compliance, tax, etc. But this is a very specialized domain, guys. And our company essentially is in this domain of raising money, doing the compliances, valuation, all of it's a very specialized job. And ये सब चीज अभी इंडिया में we are still at a nascent stage, guys. We have not reached a level where we are raising a lot of money yet. We are still at a very nascent stage when it comes to raising money through equity. And therefore, guys, the first step towards understanding how to raise money is one, the matrix, the IAVC fund enabled matrix that we spoke about. Are we fitting into that? And second thing, gaining more and more knowledge about how to do valuation, how to issue shares, which investors to reach out, how to make pitch books, all of that becomes very important, right? And that is essentially what we bring to the table and what we teach. So with this, now I want to actually break and I want to get into a last 15-20 minutes are reserved for an open discussion on any topic when it comes to private equity, any topic when it comes to raising equity, any doubts that you have, any specific questions that you want to ask, all of that I will be able to kind of answer. So let's take a quick moment of silence of say 20 seconds. Think about questions, think about questions that come to your mind, questions specific to your business, specific to certain cases, and would be happy to answer these questions for you. So over to you guys.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That is regarding market size and
sir.
total addressable market. मार्केट साइज अज्यूम करते हैं कि ट्रिलियंस में है, अज्यूम नहीं करते, वो ट्रिलियंस में है, सरकारी डेटा एंड पब्लिकली अवेलेबल डेटा है उसको सपोर्ट करने के लिए। एड्रेसेबल मार्केट अब ये जो है ये हम अज्यूम कैसे कर सकते हैं कि हम इसका 50% कैप्चर कर लेंगे या सिर्फ 10% कैप्चर कर लेंगे या सिर्फ 1% कैप्चर कर लेंगे, एंड उसके लिए हमें अजम्पशंस पहले तो करने चाहिए या नहीं करने चाहिए, और अगर नहीं करने चाहिए तो जो TAM है, टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट है, मार्केट साइज का, वो हम कैसे शो करें कि ये इतना मार्केट साइज हम एड्रेस कर लेंगे या हम कैप्चर कर लेंगे?
See, all that you have to communicate to the investor is ये मार्केट बड़ा है, राइट? उसके बाद कितना कैप्चर कर लोगे इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ कैपेसिटी, you know how much capacity you can build and how much funding you can raise. So don't get into too much detail. I would suggest धंधे पे फोकस कीजिए, ये डिटेल्स में मत जाइए. As long as you are able to communicate the fact that boss, the market is huge and there is space for us. क्या हम एक सिंपल सवाल पूछे, क्या हम 1000 करोड़ की कंपनी बन पाएंगे? तो ये मार्केट में हम 1000 करोड़ की कंपनी बन पाएंगे. उसके लिए कितना पैसा लगेगा? तो उसके लिए 5 साल में हमको 300 करोड़ रेस करना पड़ेगा. 300 करोड़ रेस करेंगे तो हम 1000 करोड़ की कंपनी बन जाएंगे टॉप लाइन. अगर हम 1000 करोड़ टॉप लाइन कंपनी बन जाएंगे तो हमारा वैल्यूएशन 3 से 4000 करोड़ बन जाएगा. क्या 3 से 4000 करोड़ इज अ गुड वैल्यूएशन टू डू अ IPO or do a listing or do a strategic sale? Yes, it is. So build the logic, this way possible. Focus on because addressable market तो वो अगर $1 trillion addressable market है और आपका 500 बिलियन का टैम है, से फॉर एग्जांपल, तो वो 500 बिलियन आपको बनाने के लिए मतलब कितना साल लगेगा? 30 साल लगेगा, 20 साल लगेगा. इससे अच्छा पुट अ शॉर्ट टर्म गोल ऑफ 1000 crores. कैन यू बिकम अ 1000 crore कंपनी? एंड इज देयर इनफ मार्केट फॉर यू टू बिकम अ 1000 crore? The next question that you have to ask is, if I have to become a 1000 crore company, how much capital will I have to raise? Split that capital in years and say that, let me start with 15 crores of capital, get to this level. So that is how we back calculate and build it.
Thank you.
Any more questions, guys?
विक्रांत सर,
Yes.
मैं भावेश हूँ.
Yeah.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि अगर हम लोग सीड या एंजल फंडिंग से लेके IPO तक जाते हैं, राइट, तो हम लोग इक्विटी डाइल्यूट करते जाते हैं, राइट, सीरीज ए, सीरीज बी, सीरीज सी, सीरीज डी. अब हर एक स्टेज पे क्या एग्जिस्टिंग इन्वेस्टर है वो एग्जिट कर लेते हैं? और दूसरा मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि अगर बतौर फाउंडर मुझे क्या ध्यान में रखना है, कितना डाइल्यूशन मुझे हर एक स्टेज पे करना है? कुछ आइडियल, कुछ ऐसा है क्या कि ये आइडियल परसेंटेज है, इतना डाइल्यूट करो तो अच्छा है?
तो कोई थंब रूल नहीं है. ऑब्वियसली आपका एजेंडा होना चाहिए कि कम से कम डाइल्यूशन हो, बट एट द सेम टाइम इट शुड बी रियलिस्टिक ऑल्सो, राइट? कि ऐसा नहीं कि आप आइडिया स्टेज पे बोल रहे हो कि 10 करोड़ के लिए मैं 5% दूंगा, राइट? So, there is actually valuation is a full 2.5 hour topic. Unfortunately, I will not be able to kind of discuss too much because it's a topic. It's a lot of numbers, etc. We'll have to do. But back of the envelope, आप ये सोचिए कि आपका एजेंडा होगा कि बहुत ज्यादा डाइल्यूट ना करें. आइडियल तो ऐसे कुछ नहीं है. there is no set rule कि फर्स्ट स्टेज पे इतना करना चाहिए, सेकंड स्टेज पे इतना करना चाहिए, etc. Till IPO level or till exit level, founders are left with, say, single digit shares in the company, right? Shareholding in the company. Just to give you an example, when Flipkart exit happened, Sachin Bansal, who was the main founder, held only 5% stake in the company. So he was the minority actually. But that 5% got sold for $1 billion. 6,500 crore रुपया उसने कमाया उस टाइम पे, वो 5% बेच के. सेकेंड इज, क्या लोग बीच बीच में एग्जिट करते हैं? तो बिल्कुल, टिपिकली एंजल्स जो होंगे वो सीरीज सी पे एग्जिट कर लेंगे, सीरीज ए वाले लोग सीरीज एफ तक एग्जिट कर लेंगे, कोई लोग थ्रू आउट रुकेंगे. So again, giving you an example of Flipkart, Ashish, there was an investor in Flipkart called Ashish Gupta. He had invested 10 lakh rupees and when he waited. उसने कहा मैं एग्जिट नहीं करूंगा, छोड़ दो, जो होता है वो देखने दो. जब वॉलमार्ट ने उसका स्टेक खरीदा तो वो 10 लाख रुपए का 135 करोड़ रुपया हो गया था. So he did not. Lot of people told him that boss exit कर दो, हमें shares दो. उसने कहा I'm not going to do that. He held on for all these years and after all these years उनके 10 लाख रुपया 135 करोड़ बन गए जब वॉलमार्ट ने खरीदा. So it depends on investors. Many exit, many don't. You know, it is very. There is no set science for this, sir. That's the whole thought. Any more questions, guys? Anything else that you want to talk about? Great. So, guys, any one of you having any questions, etc., any anything required, I am a mentor at PDPU IIC. I've been working with PDPU IIC for the past 2 years now. Get in touch with the team, and obviously we can do a lot of work together. I can mentor you. I can guide you on the whole journey of capital raising. Any follow-up questions you have, feel free to reach out to the team, and I will be always available to kind of guide you, support you wherever I can.
Can you please there is the thought coming to my mind which might be interesting for a lot of people over here. Can you give an example of a traditional business raising money? You gave an example of Cycle Agarbatti, you gave a couple of examples, some other examples of very traditional businesses which really made a lot of money. You gave example of Balaji Wafers and Bira as well, but some other manufacturing company example, if you can share.
So see, there are there are not many, to be very frank with you. Right? There are not many in terms of core businesses, core manufacturing businesses who have been able to raise money. Like I mentioned, guys who have been able to add a layer of asset light model or technology on top of this have been able to raise significant amount of funding from the market. One example I will give you: there is a cloth manufacturer based out of Ludhiana. This guy had a textile factory, right? And he used to actually make clothes for other brands. He used to supply clothes to other brands in a place in Ludhiana, right? What he did was, when Catmos and Lilliput were the two companies that were struggling in India. These are kids wear brand. There were a lot of problems with these two companies. This guy said that boss, kids wear market में इंडिया में कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. जो इंडियन ब्रांड्स है वो डूब रहे हैं और बाहर वाले ब्रांड्स अफोर्डेबिलिटी का एलिमेंट है. तो क्या हम होम ग्रोन इंडियन किड्स वेयर ब्रांड लॉन्च कर सकते हैं? तो अपने एग्जिस्टिंग टेक्सटाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी से he started making kids wears, right? He was a uniform manufacturer. He was a pure play B2B manufacturer, right? What he did was, he created a kids brand, and today that brand is called as 612 League. It's a large brand. ASK Pravi invested 50 crore rupees of capital in this particular venture. So a very, very traditional textile manufacturer raising a round of funding by, again, only उसके textile manufacturing facility के basis पे पैसा खड़ा किया? The answer is no. Using that knowledge, identifying a gap, he was able to, and having experience in uniforms, he was able to kind of start a particular brand and to grow it, right? So typically pure B2B guys moving into B2C, creating a brand, are a common theme in SMEs, if you see, which have been able to raise money, right? Manufacturers who were pure B2B players added a layer of B2C, started distributing, became a brand, created valuations. There are certain businesses which are traditionally B2B businesses which are also funded. So there is a company which makes glass facades. Sare building aajkal, corporate houses, etc. are made of glass facades. So that glass facade company, there is a manufacturer who makes those glasses, is actually funded. There are specialized brick manufacturers which are venture capital private equity funded. But what they are bringing to the table is the entry barrier, right? In these glass facades, like he has an 80% market share in that facade business, because it's not any glass manufacturer cannot make it, right? The supply chain of that is very different. The tie-ups with builders required is very different, and he has cracked that market, which means entry barrier moat hai. So such kind of businesses, there are a lot of umpteen number of examples. If you want to see more such examples, look at the portfolios of funds like Motilal Oswal, SIDBI, Rajasthan Venture Capital Fund. These are the guys who have invested in ट्रेडिशनल एसएमईज, और ऐसे भर भर के स्टोरीज आएंगे आपको जिन्होंने इन्वेस्ट पैसा एसएमईज पे किया है, बट नॉट इन देयर current shape or form. Guys who have kind of mutated, right? Guys who have kind of kept the core same, but have kind of mutated and have become much deadlier. Those guys have received funding in the SME domain. Any further questions, guys?
Can you repeat the name of that Ludhiana company?
It's called 612 League.
All right. Okay. Okay.
It's a kids wear brand. So you go to Shopper Stop, etc. Now they are across, right? And they became leaders purely because Lilliput Cat Moss was struggling. Foreign brands at that point in time were very expensive. So a homegrown Indian brand captured the market. Any further questions, guys?
Can you help, non-manufacturing company, non-manufacturing startup with their initial story? Story होती है ना, fundraising story.
Sure, definitely. So get in touch with the team. We will fix up a session, mentoring session with you. We can keep it going.
Yes, because I am applying. Right now, we don't plan to raise seed money or anything, but our goal is to get incubated in some, reputed incubator like CTL or YC or something like that. तो दोनों जगह से रिजेक्ट हो गया हूँ मैं, but CTL was kind enough to get back to me, और 30 मिनट्स उन्होंने मुझे पूरा डिब्रीफ किया कि क्या क्या रीजंस थे आपके रिजेक्शन के. So I'll be more than happy to have a call with you, discuss, and if you can help me, I'm actually looking for help.
Sure, definitely. Let me tell you, there are equally good and powerful incubators in India. One of them is PDPU IIC. So rather than going out, you should look at getting incubated here as well, sir. That can be of tremendous value to you.
Sure. So maybe I'll just drop a mail to Faizia, and maybe Faizia can put us contact with each other.
Definitely works. Great. Any final thoughts, guys? Any questions?
Vikrant sir, one question that let's say when you are bootstrapping or your POC,